There we heard an excerpt from the opera by Sean Ross. The title of the opera, Sean?
The title is Tchaikovsky, Angel of Music.
Why have you chosen that title?
That's a good question. Well, I feel Tchaikovsky lived his life for music, and his life was a life of service. It was a fairly exclusive dedication, so I think that's an appropriate title. It may change. Originally I called it The Love and Life of the Maestro, and it may change again, but at the moment that's the title I'm happiest with.
It sounds good. It's got it sort of tells you something about the motivation of the opera. Most people think they know Tchaikovsky, the man, and they certainly know his music, although they don't know a great chunk of his music, his operas. So it's interesting you're writing an opera about a composer who thought of himself primarily, I think, as an opera composer, but that's not what's come down to us through history. It's mainly his symphonies, his concertos, and his operas. Of the almost dozen or so of them, one or two.
Yeah, that's correct.
I heard.
He spent a great deal of his time trying to write the perfect opera. It meant a lot to him, and I think on at least 3 occasions he succeeded.
Yeah.
We often hear Eugene Onegin and sometimes Queen of Spades, but there are other works, The Maid of Orleans, for example, which definitely warrants a performance, and I hope someone's listening and considers taking it up, because it's a wonderfully dramatic work.
I think it's a perfect task, not a task, but it should be something that's a passion for some of the larger festival directors to bring out those Tchaikovsky operas and expose the audience to them. I mean, in the operas there's wonderful orchestral writing, interludes and etc. as well, and you can get that real feel for the symphonic Tchaikovsky. So it's full of marvellous music, marvellous tunes. It is amazing that we don't get exposed to more of his music. Absolutely amazing. So
that's true.
Fingers crossed, there's still far more to be discovered. What are people going to discover about Tchaikovsky from your opera?
What are they going to discover? They're going to discover Tchaikovsky through his own words. The libretto comes mainly from letters he exchanged with his patroness over the course of 13 years, and I think they exchanged around 1,500, quite a number of letters, and they discussed many issues very openly, and I think in those letters we learn a lot about Tchaikovsky as a person in almost every regard, and I tried as much as possible to create the libretto from his own words, so that we're seeing his life represented and hearing it from the horse's mouth, as it were. At least that's the effect I hope it has.
So how have you structured this story, this opera?
Well, it's a typical romantic opera in 3 acts, and each act comprises 3 tableaux. So each tableau in each act represents a different period in his life, and in each tableau we have a couple of scenes which are crucial moments that illustrate the journey of Tchaikovsky's life, and those scenes are connected by sung recitative, and then following those scenes there is a large body of recitative which, rather than being sung, is spoken, and this creates a clear delineation between those parts of the opera that represent Tchaikovsky's past from those which represent the present. And when I say the present, I mean the last year of his life. So it's set concurrently in the last year of his life as he converses with his nephew, and then in various moments throughout his past, and we go backwards and forwards between the two. So it's a bit like a movie that starts at the end and goes back, and so hopefully it's an effective way of telling the story.
And I'm sure that's what you hope for the opera itself, that it is effective.
Yeah.
And it does tell us something about the man behind the music, and inspire us. I would hope that people would be inspired by the opera to explore more of Tchaikovsky's music. There is much more of it than we have in the standard repertoire, so to speak.
That's right, yeah.
So that takes us back right to the beginning. What inspired you to write an opera? What are you hoping that people walk away from your opera thinking?
I I hope they walk away having a greater appreciation of the genius of Tchaikovsky, because I think we oversimplify that to a large degree. I hope they come away with a fuller picture of who he was as a man, not the myth that is perpetuated. There's such a lot of myth around Tchaikovsky, so many generalisations, and I just think it would be nice to add a few more shades of grey so we get a fuller picture of him as a human being, rather than some kind of caricature. Yeah, that's what I hope.
I think it's a worthy cause.
Yeah.
Because my feeling is the more we know about composers, the more we will appreciate the music
Yes, definitely.
that came from them. So that's well worth doing. So you got to the point where you've written the opera, and now you're clearly hoping to stage it, and we'll be staging a rehearsed sort of run through of sections of it in the 4MBS summer school in January.
Yes.
So let's just keep an eye out for the dates for that. So you've written the opera. So what did you do after Tchaikovsky? It's such a big project.
It was a huge project, and obviously I needed a break when I finished it. After I finished it, I looked for a full-time job, because for a long time I'd only ever had casual work to support myself, and I wanted to get to Russia for obvious reasons, to visit all his old haunts and to actually live there, to experience life firsthand, as different as Russia is now from what it was during his lifetime. And the quickest way I could do that was to teach English. So I got myself a TESOL certificate and moved to Brisbane looking for full-time work. My family had moved up here a couple of years prior to that. And I went overseas. I spent 6 months in Russia and about 5 months in Georgia teaching English. And then when I came back, I published the work. I had handwritten the whole opera, so I had to transfer that onto finale files so it could be published. And I spent about a year doing that. That in itself was a huge job. And it's only just in the last year or so really that I've been free to pursue its performance in some shape or form. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to workshop part of the opera, Act 3 of the opera, which is probably the most dramatic act. Hopefully someone of influence will see it and we'll see a fuller production of the work.
We're going to hear, to finish our talk with the composer Sean Ross, a second excerpt that we've recorded especially for this program. Sean, tell us what this excerpt is about.
Okay, this is one of my favourite pieces in the opera. It comes right near the end of Act 3, before the funeral scene, and it's set virtually at Tchaikovsky's deathbed, and this is a piece that his brother, the playwright Modeste, sings, and he's reflecting on the life of his brother and everything that they've shared and everything that Tchaikovsky has meant to him, and basically he's praising him for a life well lived and lamenting the fact that they're soon to be separated.
What can I say, so overwhelmed with emotion, my heart demands its feelings be expressed. I'll not be free from my mind and its commotion. 'Tis to your sleeping soul all is confessed. I'm astounded, trapped in fervent contemplation of a life well lived. I've not save admiration, for as boundless as the seas my gratitude. I'm touched deeply by your soul's beatitude, like a fire soul ablaze one so inspired. Can it be our time together's now expired? praise by their duet. By you our childhood days were endlessly delighted, with countless kaises which I never can forget. Though compelled at times your calling to relinquish, when the soul by life was threatened with captivity, only saint might wash the spark of creativity. Yet no power on earth would tear his flame extinguish. No healing tonic soothes the loss that we must bear, for we all, for he whose life was so complete. The barren void you leave behind, we all must share. And our grief grows stronger still with each heartbeat. Your work stands tall and proud before our Russia. To music life was made a sacred monument. Your love bestowed upon you then bears testament, more worthy of success. There is no other who can match you. You'll be missed with all your blessed soully parts. Your king of music, but also queen of hearts.
There we heard an excerpt from the opera, written by Sean Ross. The opera is Tchaikovsky, Angel of Music, and we heard then Daniel Smerdon with the composer Sean Ross accompanying the piano. Thank you to Sean for sharing his thoughts about his opera and the processes involved, and we look forward to you, your company, as a listener and as an attendee at the workshopping of Act 3 of Tchaikovsky, Angel of Music, in the 2015 4MBS Summer School, which will be in January. So keep an eye out if you're a subscriber. There will be details published in the program guide in the December-January issue. But if you're a listener and not a subscriber, you will need to keep your ears open to hear more about when you can attend this very special event.